Now it is impossible to hack this system. What's the problem here? This AI agent has 3 core states. Okay, this looks very complicated, but it's actually very easy. So now it follows the script. Build a bridge, but the bridge doesn't stand until you put in the last stone. Let's assume I am Olivia Harris. It gives me a different protocol. This service will probably break. Let's go, it's ringing. Oh, and one more thing. Homeowner association management companies need to manage different protocols for different associations they work with. So they end up with lengthy scripts and employ a call center. As we can see here, each association needs their own protocol for different tasks such as missing payments, accounting, billing, and so on. So in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to build an AI voice agent for you. So on the phone that seamlessly handles all these scripts without mixing them up. And as a bonus, I'll show you how to buy a phone number and connect it. So you hit the ground running. This AI agent has 3 core states, unlike others that are bloated. The trick here lies in a very well organized knowledge base that's powered by retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, R-A-G. You can see here. You learn how to build this for your own homeowner association management. And you can download the complete AI agent file for retail via the link in the description below that you can import directly into Voiceflow and hit the ground running. This is part of a 30-day challenge where I put one new AI agent out every day for the next 30 days. Today's number 19. Feel free to subscribe to this channel to not miss out on any of the new agents. This is what we are going to cover today. We're going to have a look at a demo where I'm going to call this AI agent. Then we will do a conversational flow inside of Miro. So this is this design tool where we will talk high level about the states. We will implement this AI agent inside of Voiceflow. This is how the final AI agent looks like. This is all powered by Airtable. So we will have a look at how to create this database and how to connect it via API to this AI agent. Then we will prepare the documents for the knowledge base, upload it, and configure the retrieval augmented generation process. Finally, we will configure this inside Voiceflow. We will connect it to the AI agent, and then we will test this AI agent via chat and via the phone. Finally, as a bonus, we will buy a phone number via Twilio, and I will show you all the steps you need to connect them with Voiceflow. So first, what's the problem here that these homeowner association managers are facing? As we can see, there are different documents they have to handle. So for example, there are protocols. What happens if a homeowner calls for accounting, billing, and web concerns? And what if they are in one particular association? So for example, Maple Ridge, and they have a different protocol than everything else that is here for everybody else. So we can see it here. So for all other communities, this script has to be executed. But for Maple Ridge, this script has to be executed. So for example, in this case, the homeowner association manager doesn't manage accounting for Maple Ridge, so it has to redirect the caller to directly call the on-site office. Whereas for all other communities, it has to follow this protocol where it handles billing directly and accounting, so it will ask them how the payment is being made and so on and so forth. So now I will show you a demo where I'm going to call this AI agent and tell them that I am from Maple Ridge. For this, I've set up an Airtable database with all the communities. So here we can see Maple Ridge, which is over here. And I will assume I am Brian Gray, who lives in Maple Ridge. And I will inquire about my balance. And I will expect the AI agent to tell me that they cannot help me out. So let's call this AI agent and see what they say. And then at the end, we will follow the whole conversation that will be logged here inside the call logs. Let's go, it's ringing.
Hello, you've reached Emily, the new AI agent at Next Associations Management. I'm still on probation, so I promise to be on my best behavior. Think of me as the friendly rookie here to help you out. If at any point you want to chat with a human instead, just say the word. But hey, give me a shot first. I'm eager to learn and assist. What can I help you with today?
Hi, Emily. I want to inquire about my account balance, please.
Got it. You want to check your account balance. Thanks for reaching out. I'll help you with that. To get started, could you please tell me your full name?
Yeah, I'm Brian Gray.
Thanks, Brian Gray. Now, could you please tell me the name of the homeowner association or community you're part of?
Sure, I'm part of Maple Ridge Homeowner Association.
Thanks for that, Brian. Lastly, could you please provide your home address in the Maple Ridge community?
Of course, it's 987 Ridge Road, Maple City.
Thanks for your patience, Brian. For Maple Ridge, I won't be able to provide account details directly here at Next Association Management. All account-related matters, like your balance and statements, are handled by the on-site office at Maple Ridge. They'll be able to review your account and provide the information or documents you need. If you haven't already, I recommend reaching out to the site office. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
Oh, that's too bad. All right, I will do that. No worries. Thanks a lot. That's all for today.
Please hold on for a second while the ticket is being created. Thank you for reaching out to Next Associations Management. Have a wonderful day and don't hesitate to contact us again. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. So it hung up. And now we will have a look at the logs where our conversation will be displayed here in a second. And here it is. So it is this one, the second one. And we can see that here it created a concerns and a actions field where basically the team can later on come and have a look what has been discussed. So in this case, the concern is that the homeowner Brian Gray called to inquire about account balance, and the actions were that we informed them that we cannot provide them this. So he needs to reach out to the site office. No further action is required. Okay, now you might ask yourself, what if I'm a different homeowner? What if I am from any other community and I want to inquire about my account balance? So what the protocol is for this, if I'm in all other communities, is that it needs to read my account amount, my balance amount, and the last payment when it was done. So in this case, let's assume I'm Olivia Harris and I live in the Pine Hill community. So this person has a balance of 410 and the last payment was September 17th. So now let's call the AI agent again so that you can see the difference, that it gives me a different protocol. It's ringing.
Hello, you've reached Emily, the new AI agent at Next Associations Management. I'm still on probation, so I'm trying to be extra helpful and maybe even a little challenging.
Great, Emily, thank you. I would like to inquire about my account balance, please.
Got it. You'd like to inquire about your account balance. Thanks for reaching out about that. I'll help you get this sorted. To start, could you please tell me your full name?
Yeah, I'm Olivia Harris.
Thanks, Olivia Harris. Now, could you please tell me the name of the homeowner?
It's 753 Cedar Street, Cedarville, 89012.
Thanks for providing your details, Olivia. Just to confirm, you'd like to know your current account balance. Can you tell me when your last payment was processed? This will help me give you the most accurate info.
Yes, of course. I think the last payment was processed around September, mid-September this year.
Perfect, thank you. So your last payment was made around mid-September this year. Here's what I see. Your current balance is $410. The last payment we received from you was in September 2025, and there's no late fee reflected yet. Please make sure to settle your payment soon to avoid any late fees. Is there anything else I can help you with regarding your account or anything else today?
Oh no, thank you. That was all. Thanks a lot for the info. Bye-bye.
Please hold on for a second while the ticket is being created. Thank you for reaching out to Next Associations Management. Have a wonderful day and don't hesitate to contact us again.
All right, bye-bye. And it hung up. So we see that it followed this other protocol. It first asked me when was the payment processed first, and then it pulled out the information of the database where it saw that my current balance is 410 and it was paid on September 17th. Now let's have a look at the call log. So we can see that a new entry was created with Olivia Harris, and the conclusion, the concern was that the homeowner called to inquire about a balance, and this is her street. And then with the verified homeowner details, the AI verified them and they confirmed the last balance, when it was made, and so on and so forth. No further action requested by the homeowner. So you can see that everything is handled by these documents that you can upload and you can configure for each of your homeowner associations. So that means once you build the conversation flow, there is nothing else you need to do except for configuring these documents. So this was the first step that we did now, and we are done with the demo. So this agent is conceptually very simple because most of the logic happens inside of the RAG database, okay? So that means we will have a few, like maybe 2 or 3 states, okay? So the first state is the greeting, and at the same time, the homeowner authentication. We will do this both in one step because it is fairly straightforward. We ask for the name, homeowner association, and their address, right? And from here, we go into an intermediary step where we have to check if this homeowner is part of a special homeowner association, right? So check if special association. Now, for this, we will write some costume code. So this is why I replace this block with an API call. Well, this isn't an API call per se. Voiceflow supports the writing of costume code. So I will just replace this so that you know it is not a proper step per se, but Voiceflow will mark it as such. We will need this logic to later construct the proper prompt to fetch the proper documents. So remember, these steps are meant to prepare the right prompts to extract the right documents from the knowledge database. And then basically the third step here would be the actual issue triaging and troubleshooting. So this part will be then connected with the knowledge database. So most of the work will be done inside of this step. We will connect it to the knowledge database in a second. And just to finish the flow, once the whole conversation has been wrapped up, we will create a ticket. And then finally, once that's done, we will end the call. So these are basically our 5 steps that we have. And we need to connect now this step with a knowledge database. For this, we will pull this component over here. That's called database search, and we will call knowledge base. All right. And we'll create an arrow from the knowledge base to this step because data flows from the knowledge base to the AI agent. Okay, so basically I will mark this here with an extra rectangle just to make it clear that this is basically the main part that we will be working with, just so that you know that most of the magic happens in here. And then we've got one more connection from create ticket into the... So what happens here is that once the ticket gets created, it gets written inside of here. And of course, we also have a connection to the Airtable CRM over here when we do the greeting and the authentication, but it's the other way around. It's from the Airtable database into the AI agent so that it looks up the homeowner's details, the community details, and all of that. And this part over here will be costume code. Don't worry, you will download this whole agent that contains all the code and all the connections to the APIs right in the agent file that you can import directly into Voiceflow and hit the ground running. All right, now that we're all set with this straight conversation flow, we will go into Voiceflow and implement each of these steps, and you will see that most of the work will be spent here on the right. We will quickly mark this step over here as done because we just finished the conversation flow design in Miro. And now once we are in the Voiceflow website, we click on sign in, or if you already have an account, you can directly go into the dashboard. If not, sign up. This is how the dashboard looks like. So now what I will do is I will go over projects here in the left hand side, and I will click on new project here at the top, and I will click start from scratch. Now, this is how the Voiceflow interface looks like. It has this conversation builder here in the center. It looks very much like Miro with these components that I can drag and drop over here, and most of the components I can use over here, as we can see. So what do these components do? Traditionally, Voiceflow was an NLP language processing, and it has these blocks for all the components of the session, like message, images, cards. You could send all types of media through the chat, and then it could capture information, it could write variables, and it also had blocks to connect to APIs, functions, and so on. So you had to build all of these steps manually one by one. But recently they introduced this all-encompassing AI agent step over here, which is what we will use now, which basically encompasses all of these steps, but very smartly switches between each of them. So it's like ChatGPT, but connected to all of these tools. So this is basically the starter agent. This is the first block, but just for demo purposes, I will delete this one and I will just drag the AI agent step over here. So you see how a new one looks like. And here I can give it a name, and we want to recreate what greeting and authentication. Now, it doesn't matter how you name these blocks because they aren't read by the LLMs. The title isn't read, but what's important is how you prompt these agents. So now I click inside of this block and I can configure this agent. By the way, I can drag various blocks inside of this one, let's say, component. So for example, here I can drag a message and write a message over here. But since I'm using an AI agent step anyways, I don't need these extra steps, okay? So this is just to show you what these components are over here that basically are the top level components, okay? So one AI agent step is enough inside of this component, okay? And now here on the right hand side, I can configure them. So because I have no agent created yet, I can click new agent, and now this AI agent configuration window appears. And here I can give it a title. Again, this isn't a description that will be read by the LLM. This is just, so here I can enter the description of, but what's important are these instructions, okay? So this title is just such that when I come back here, it appears here in the list. So in case I need to reuse this later, or I have smaller agents for just very simple steps, for example, a separate agent for authentication, it's very smart to give it a name that we recognize. But let's go to editing this agent now. So here I will need to prompt this AI agent to act as a homeowner association management company front desk. And its identity will be Emily, a friendly and knowledgeable and slightly humorous front desk agent for management company next association manager, okay? Now say, okay, you're still on probation and the caller can request you you redirect it to a human at any time. Callers the option if they are not comfortable with the AI, or if the AI makes errors and so on, to a human. The next thing I will specify is that you're reliable and approachable, and so on and so forth. Now, I have already prepared a prompt for this, and I will not go into detail about all the details of this prompt. I will just give the high-level overview. You have all the details, high-level, how this prompt is composed. So it will have to understand what the caller is calling about, but it will not try to solve the issue here, because right now it's not connected to the knowledge base. And I will have a section about its style. So how should it talk? Plain conversation English, easy to understand for a 12-year-old, use some humor, and so on and so forth. Then I have some response guidelines. So I will explain each step of what happens next. It should confirm actions taken, and so on and so forth. Think about how your front desk human agent acts, what your internal company style guardrails are, so that you can write them in here. Again, you have access to this when you download the complete aid. Then another section about rebuttals. So what happens if the owner is frustrated, how to respond to rationally, and so on and so forth. Also making sure that if the caller is badly intended, it has to not follow their instructions. For example, if the caller tries to hack, so everything to make sure everything is safe. And then basically I will say that it will call the tools if it needs extra information, such as data about the and so on and so on. And then I will give it the exact steps, what it needs to take. So it will first greet the caller, and then it has to listen to what they say, and then it has to identify them by their name, their homeowner association, and their address. It will get these details from the Airtable connection that we will configure in a moment, and then it will authenticate them. Once that's done, it will transition to the exit condition. So now, what's an exit condition? We want to connect this node to other nodes. I will quickly go back here into Miro. So basically the exit conditions here are these steps to the next step. So it's these arrows, okay? So what happens and what needs to happen to go to the next step, to the next step, the next step, because we don't want to stay in this step forever, right? And this icon, so I click on exit condition, and here I can create a new exit condition. So the name isn't relevant for the LLM, so I can just call it data successfully gathered. But the LLM description is important. So the AI knows when to trigger this transition. And I will call this when all homeowner details have been connected. And now there is this special thing here called required variables. So before I trigger this node, the LLM will collect some data and save it into variables that doesn't change over the course of the whole execution. So for example, data that I want to reuse later on. Now, for example, here I want to save the homeowner's full name, okay? So when I click plus, I will see this list, and there are some other variables that have been already defined by default inside of Voiceflow, like sessions, user ID, timestamp, and so on and so forth. Now, we won't touch these right now because we don't need them, but what we need is, for example, the homeowner's full name. So I will create new variable and call this variable homeowner full name. And then I will have a description that again is important for the LLM, because this way it knows what data to fill into this. So it will be the full name of the homeowner. And then I click create variable, okay? And we can see that it appears down here. So it means that every time I transition from the first step to the next step, so for every caller, it will gather the homeowner full name inside here. And in the same way, I need a few others. So I do the same thing. I click create variable, and this one will be called homeowner database ID. So this value will be the value that will be given to the AI by Airtable, by the LLM, or by the database. So I will call this again the ID of the homeowner in the database, okay? So we will see how this is important in a sec. Now I've added two other variables as well, the homeowner community. So this is the name of the community that they belong to, and then the homeowner community ID again inside the database. So just as a quick spoiler alert, we will use this later on when we create the log tickets to connect back to the ID of the homeowner and of the community they belong to, okay? Because inside Airtable, we can link data from one table to the other. But hold your breath for a second, we will get there in a minute. Then we will configure the model here at the top. So this is the AI that this will run on, and we will choose GPT-4.1 mini. I found that this one is a good compromise between cost and capability of the LLM, and it's very good for phone calls. And I will set temperature to 0.1. So don't want the LLM to come up with any creative stuff, and this also reduces the probability that it will hallucinate. Then here again, we have a knowledge. This one we won't use, right? Because the knowledge base is in the third step when we give actual advice, but here we don't give advice. we just authenticate. Okay, this is done. You might ask yourself, okay, why don't we connect with the Airtable database as is shown here inside of Miro? Well, the point is we will do this in a second because now we want to keep the high level focus on this conversation flow, and only later on do we want to connect with the different systems so that we don't lose focus. We keep in the same type of work, and once we have configured these API connections, we can reuse them inside of Voiceflow, which is very practical. Good, well done. Now we connect the start step with this step, and we are already in the stage of having a very primitive AI agent. So now if I click this play arrow here, then it will start a chat with this AI agent, and you see that the interface slightly changes. So on the right hand side, I have the actual chat with the AI agent. And here on the left lower, all the steps that this AI agent goes through. And then here in the middle, I can still see the graph. So the steps of the conversation. And basically I can follow each step. So we can see that it has this blue border here, meaning this is the current step, right? So now I can tell it over here, hey, how can I pay my bills, for example? Right? And then we can see that is already following the script, which is exactly what we want. And it asks me, hey, can you please tell me your full name, right? And then I can tell it my full name and so on and so forth. So now it follows the script. Now it asks me for my homeowner association and so on and so forth. So you can see we already have a very basic agent, but it doesn't do anything because it will get stuck here because in this step, it doesn't have any exit condition and the next stage that it will connect to. So we need to keep going, and we will test this in a bit once it's completely connected. Now, the next step that we need is we need to do this little costume code over here. So check if they are part of a special homeowner association. Now, we will have a look at the special communities once we set up the database and the documents. But for the moment, I will just create a new block here over here called dev function. I will connect this exit condition over here. I will call this check if special community. I will click on create function, and this is basically JavaScript. So I will leave this empty for the moment. The only thing that I will do is I will configure the input and output variables, okay? And this is very similar to an exit condition, but the point here is that instead of just transitioning, it also gets the variables, or it just gets the variable. So here I will start with input variables, and I will call this homeowner community. So again, this description is important because this is what the LLM looks like. So I'll call this the community the homeowner belongs to. And then I will have an output variable that I will call community name query. And this is used later on in the prompt. So this is a little block that will be input into the prompt. And I will call this the name of the community the homeowner belongs to serve as a query later on. Okay. Now I won't change the code here just now. I will show you first how to connect the input and output variables of this block to the rest. So here, let's first name this function because it's still untitled. So I will call this function determine community name RAG query because this is what it does. Okay. Now I again don't have to input a description. This is just for me as the developer. And here I already see that the input and output variables are configured, but just on the side of the function. But still they are not connected to the outside. Okay. And this is where this other variable that I did configured here in the beginning, remember I used this over here. I will quickly show you this again. In the first step, we had these variables here when the data was successfully gathered. So this is now what I will need, and I will pass over the homeowner community to this function. Okay. So I will come back now to this function over here, and here in the input variables, I will use homeowner community. So I will start with a curly brace, and then it will show me all of the variables that are available right now. So these are the variables that are built into Voiceflow, and then the ones that I have defined. So I will use homeowner community. So now homeowner community maps to the homeowner community written in a bit different way inside of the function. Okay. And now the same way variable community name will have to be mapped to something else. So this was called community name query, and this will be mapped to a variable that because I haven't defined yet. So I'll create a new variable, and I will call this variable community name query, all with underscores. And I will call this the query used to define the RAG retrieval. Okay, and now I click create, and now this new variable has been created. And now comes the, let's say, the most complex step. If we quickly go back to Miro, we have to now create the issue triaging and troubleshooting step that will connect to the RAG knowledge base. So this is basically the meat of our AI agent, right? Because we don't have so many steps. So I will create the new agent here. I will connect this output to the input of the agent, and I will name this number 3, issue triaging and troubleshooting. And this is where the whole magic happens. So again, I do the same thing. I create a new agent, and now I create a new prompt. And the prompt will be very similar to the one we had in the beginning. So I will copy the part that we had in the beginning that remains unchanged. And this is the one about the identity of the AI agent, the goal. Now the goal has changed slightly because I want to gather the details about I don't want to gather the details. So I will just say, take the homeowner's issue and help them resolve the issue, okay? And then the style guardrails will remain the same, the responses, the rebuttals. Now, what we have added here is the RAG knowledge database tool calling and information manager. Now, this will be important because here I will instruct the LLM how to use the knowledge base. And this is important because I will tell it you'll not make up or invent any information. And whenever you don't know something, you'll call the RAG knowledge base. Also, it's important to never include the name of the community in the RAG query, okay? So the RAG query, just to give you an example, will look something like this. It will look like how to make a payment. And then this will be the core query. And then we combine this with the information that comes from the function step we have earlier, for, and then it will be the community name. Right? So this is kind of how it will look like. It will have 2 components, right? So it will have this component and then it will have this component. So it have two different components that it will stitch together into one query. And this is why it's important to not include a community name in the query, because this is just this part. We will then manually include the community inside the query. So in this way, it is able to gather just exactly the information for this community, for this matter. And this is important because the documents contain similar information for different communities, but still slightly different. So it is very easy for the RAG to get confused here. And this is why we construct this in such a complex way, which at the end of the day is fairly simple conceptually. And now I continue with the prompt, and I will explain to it how the composition of the knowledge base query will be. So the point here is that it will compose a compact one-line question into this variable. I will define the variable in a second based on the issue. And again, I say do not include the homeowner's community name. So here I say to compose this one-liner question, and then I will say, okay, how should it handle the RAG response? Now here I will add a new variable that I call knowledge base retrieved content, the content retrieved from the knowledge base. So this variable will be filled in a second when we connect to the knowledge base, right? So here we will have all the documents that come out of the knowledge base. I will show you this in a second. And I'm aware that this might be a bit confusing because we are building these steps, so to speak, one before the other. But once you've built this the first time, the second time it's much easier. It's a bit like building a bridge, right? You go all of these components that build a bridge, but the bridge doesn't stand until you put in, let's say, the last stone, like one of these arch bridges. Okay, so this is basically what we're doing now, but hang on tight. I will walk with you through all the steps so it's super easy for you to understand. So basically here will be all the documents. So imagine the prompt when it runs doesn't have this KB retrieved content string. It has the whole content of the documents that it retrieved. And now I come and write the instructions over. Okay, so these come last. Always instructions come last. If you think about this, it's always examples, data, instruction. This is like a prompting framework, EDI. First the examples, then the data, then the instructions. Right now here we don't have any examples, but we do have data. So the data comes first, the instruction always comes last, so the LLM knows what exactly it has to do. And this is basically the core of it, okay? If you don't have the information, look up the RAG tool, okay? I'll quickly jump over this, go quickly over it, and basically the documents will contain these steps here, discover and resolution, where it instructs the AI agent what to do in each case. And because they are different for each homeowner's community, we don't want to hard code them inside of the steps of the AI agent. This is why we will tell it, okay, look at what's inside there and look at what's inside there. And this way, the knowledge base is extendable. That means when new homeowners join or when others leave, I can add documents, I can leave documents out without changing anything inside of the prompt and inside of the general flow of the AI agent. Then once that's done and it has provided the homeowner with the resolution, it repeats step step 1, 2, 3 over here for every new piece of information they receive. Okay, so it's an iterative process. So speaking of the exit condition, this is what we'll do now. We will create an exit condition here. We'll call this wrap up, and we will exit if there's nothing else to discuss or there are any other signs that the conversation is ending. Okay, this is good. And now we want one other exit condition for the knowledge base. And we name this exit condition KB knowledge query. And the description is used when querying the knowledge base. Okay, now this is an important thing because if you already know Voiceflow only a little bit, you've seen this step over here, knowledge base. The point here is that before AI agent steps were introduced inside of Voiceflow, you had to configure the knowledge base externally. Now, once these AI agent steps have been introduced, it has this very neat step over here where I can configure the knowledge base directly and it knows when to call it. Now, I discovered a bug a few days ago where even though I queried the knowledge base correctly inside of the knowledge base configure step, once it queries the knowledge base over here, it completely messes up the query and it also messes up the data it retrieves. Okay, now I won't go into this bug, but for the time being, I work with an external knowledge base. Maybe at some point they will fix it, but until then, we work with an external knowledge base. So this means we will disable the knowledge base here and we will go with an external one. All right, again, we choose the model, and here I will choose to go with GPT-4.1, not the mini model, because this step is more complex. I've tested it already, and the mini model is too weak to consistently generate the correct knowledge base query string. Okay, so we will just go with this one. All right, looking good. And now the last step, if we quickly go back to Miro, is create the ticket and end the call. So now I'll pull a new AI agent, and maybe you're asking, okay, why don't I create the ticket inside this step? Well, the thing is, I tested it as well, and it tends to create the ticket various times, so it's safer to do a separate block. It's always good to separate the concerns whenever you can. We'll call this block create ticket. Here I do the same thing. I create a new agent, call the agent create ticket agent. And this is a very simple one. All it does is it will create a ticket and act as that will act as a summary of the entire conversation. Very simple. Here we can go with the GPT 4.1 mini model because it's okay. Just set the temperature to 0.1 to not hallucinate that much. It doesn't need a knowledge base, and we will connect it to the database in a second. There's one more thing we need here. We need a very simple fixed message. So we will go to the talk step and pull the message over here because this AI agent doesn't talk. So it will just create a ticket. It's a very simple one. So our message will be very easy. Please hold on for a second while the ticket is being created. Why do we need this? We need this because we don't want the caller to hang up whilst we're in the middle of creating the ticket. Okay? And then we have connected the wrap up step to this. And the exit condition of this AI agent will also be an easy one. We will call it end call. And the description will be if the ticket has been created successfully, then end the call. And for this, there is a special step over here inside of the logic blocks, and it was called end. And all it does is just it ends the call in the current state. So we don't have to configure anything. We just connect to this block and we will call this end call. All right, looking good. So now if we look at the whole flow, we can see that we have these 5 steps that we had over here inside of Miro as well. We have greeting and authentication. We have checking if they are part of a special community to set the prompt later on for the RAG database. We have the issue triaging and troubleshooting. This is the most complex step. Then we have the ticket creation step where it will create a summary inside of our database for our team to inspect and take any actions. And then once that's done, we will go to the end call step that will hang up the phone basically. And there's one more thing I forgot here in the end call step. We also need a message block over here, also with a hard-coded message that will be very simple. Thank you for reaching out to Next Associations Management. Have a wonderful day, and I'll hope to see you soon. Now, this is what we do here, and then the caller knows that everything is okay, and then they can hang up the phone safely. Okay, now let's go to the interesting part now. We haven't connected anything yet to Airtable nor to the knowledge base. So let's start with the Airtable connection over here. If we quickly look at the outline, what we did so far, we implemented the agent in Voiceflow. Well, the high level agent like the flow, but we still have to connect both Airtable and the documents, the preparation of them, and preparing the knowledge base. So let's jump straight into Airtable. We go to airtable.com. You can imagine this as a Google Sheets type of system that works a bit like a CRM system as well. So it's like a bit more sophisticated Google Sheets kind of system. This is how the dashboard looks like. And I will click down here on create, and I will create a new app, clicking building an app on your own. This is how the tables look like. Here in the center, I basically have a spreadsheet type of interface. This is like the default database, name, notes, whatever. So I can click on these cells and then I can go to the next one. Very, very familiar with Google Sheets. It also has these tables here at the top, so I can click a new table, for example. So it's like the tabs inside of Google Sheets, okay? So if you're familiar with that, it's super easy. Then it also has something very special that Google Sheets doesn't have. It has this AI agent base for homeowner associations management, okay? So this is a fairly new addition to Airtable where I can write prompts inside of here and it will translate directly into my actual tables. So this is a super, super smart thing, super easy to use. Totally recommend you to do this because in this way you don't have to manually click on all these things and configure them, okay? Because you can also click on the column headers and you can see that each column has a proper or an actual type. So I have different types here, long text, attachment, checkbox, whatever. We also know this from Google Sheets, right? Where I have checkboxes and different steps. Now we can see that the prompt here has completed, okay? This is just a quick demo for you to see what it does. So it has invented an actual database schema with all of these steps over here, where it came up with the proper tables like HOA, board members, payments, and so on. And we can see that it has implemented it. We can see this blue border here and it shows me, okay, this is what it has changed, right? So if I click here, I can click on all of these tables and see what was new. So this is like huge, very, very easy. So for example, the homeowner table will have name, email, phone, address, property, and so on. Then all the properties, well, it's still empty, right? So I can now start and fill it in. For example, like the name, like an email address, and then a phone number, then my address. The property, this is a link, so I can configure a property now. So you see it works a lot like Google Sheets, okay? And the homeowner association board members and so on. Now this is a fairly blown up example for this demo over here. Of course, now I can come and manage this by hand and so on and so forth. But I've already prepared something for you in a different table that we will work with in this demo. And this is the table we will work with. Super easy, 3 tables. We have a community list where we have the community, if it's a special community, so basically if it has documents that require a certain type of handling, certain procedures, certain phone numbers and so on, then I have the community ID, start and end date, location, county, who the collections attorney is, and all of this data, right? That I won't go into it, but stuff that has to do with the day-to-day operations. And I have the second table called homeowners. So these are the people that actually live in these properties. And you can see here how this linking works. So the community here, for example, let's take John Anderson. The community Greenwood Estates isn't a string. So it isn't just a, let's say, text Greenwood Estates that is this property, this homeowner associations over here. But if I click on it, it's an actual link to the actual table, okay? So, and we can see this with this white arrow over here that it's a link to the community link, which is Sheets lookup functionality. And if you know databases, it's very similar to a foreign key. So basically Greenwood Estates is a foreign key into the community list, okay? But I won't go into details over here. This is very nice because Airtable has this functionality, so I don't repeat myself, okay? And the data is neatly sorted. It's a bit like a blend between Google Sheets and a database. And also if I click on this expand button here, I can see a CRM-like window that looks like this, that shows me all the data neatly one below each other, which is very. And the third table that I have here is the call logs table. Basically this is empty now, so I have these fields that will be filled in by the AI agent through the API call. Now how will this look like more or less? I will just show you a quick RFA, request for action. Let's say it has a number. This is an auto incrementor, so this will fill in once I fill this one in. I will add a name over here, let's say John Anderson. Their email address will be filled in automatically and so on and so forth. But what won't be filled in is the concern they have. Say homeowner asked about, and then the actions that were suggested by the AI agent. Advice to contact Emily at nexthomeassociations.com. and request the documents there. So this is kind of how this looks like, but this will be automatically filled in by the AI agent. So our task now is we want to connect with this database via API. Now, how do we get the API of Airtable? Well, we click down here on this help button and we click on API documentation. And Airtable is very nice in this regard because it generates an API documentation specifically for this table. So most tools that are out there, any tool that you use an API documentation for, it is very generic, but Airtable generates this for every table, which makes it very easy for us. And we can see this because it shows us the name. Now, what we need here, we go to the left, and what we need here is the API of two things, actually three. We need an API for all three tables over here, community list, and we want to connect the first step, the authentication step. So for this, we need the homeowners table data and the community list API. So both of them, the APIs. And what we need here first is the list rec functionality. Okay. And once I click on list records, I can see everything that I can do here. Now, I won't go into the technicalities. Okay. You can read about how APIs work on the internet in general. It's super easy. But what we need is this connection string, https api.airtable.com v0, then the ID of the table, and then the ID of the base. So of the whole, let's say, database, and then the ID of the table, which is homeowners. Okay. So I will copy this and then I go to the step inside of Voiceflow where I do the authentication. So I click here, I click edit agent, and now here I have all of these nice connections. What I'll do is I will click on API and I will click on create API tool. Now, maybe you have already seen this little button here, Airtable integration. Why don't I use this? Well, the problem with this is once you try to use it, it's not granular enough, so I cannot specify, let's say, to search for a specific homeowner or for a specific community. So what I mean by this is once we have this, we will very soon need to go to filter by formula because we don't want to get all the homeowners. We want to get just the homeowner that has the name of the caller. Okay, so this is why we go granular by choosing here an extra API connection one by one. Okay, so we'll click it and we will call this API get homeowner by name. So this is the name of the tool and then the description. And this is important because this is being used by the AI, gets a homeowner record by their full name. Okay, so this is important. And now comes the fun part. We have to specify all the API connections, all the details of it. Quickly coming back here to the documentation, copying the connection string again, pasting it over here. It is a GET request. This is what we need. So there is GET and POST and some others, but this is what we need right now. GET means data is being read from the database, and POST means data is being written to the database. And now we need the authentication headers, which has a header called authorization. It means here I specify the API key, and it's in the format bearer, which is always this name bearer, and then API key specific to my account. How do I get the API key? I come back to Airtable and again I go down here into this sidebar here. I click on my image and then I click on account. Here I click on go to developer hub. I click on create token and then here I click on create token again. And now here I can give a name to this and let's call it Voiceflow integration. I can name it whatever I want and I add scope. So this means what rights do I have if I use Airtable through this API key? And I say, okay, I want to read data and I want to write data. This is okay for now. I will create token by clicking here. And once this is created, I've already created one for myself, but once you create this, it will appear here and you can copy it over here. This is the top, basically you will see the API key. So you copy this into here. So I've already copied mine and I've inserted it over here. And what we want now is we want to get somebody with a specific name. So let's say now I will run this. I will do a test. So we come over here at the top, we click run, and we can see that here it actually ran this API call and it gave me all the data that's inside of the homeowners table already. So we can see them here in JSON format. So JSON is a type of code that is used by machines to transfer data over the internet. And it's very simple. It's like key value. So the key, for example, here is ID, value is this. So the ID of this record is, and the fields is name is this, phone is this. So here we can see that it's the actual data of the homeowners. Now, we don't want the LLM to have access to the whole thing because let's say somebody calls and says, okay, my name is this and that. And then the LLM says, okay, you're not in the database. And then they say, okay, but who is in the database? And then the LLM will say, okay, all of these people. We don't want that. Okay, so we don't want the data to be exposed. So this is why we have to filter. And we can see here here we have this filter by formula query string. Now, what's a query string? I can come to a GET request, put a question mark at the end, and then give it special instructions, okay? Give it these query strings. And so, for example, filter by formula equals, and now the formula that I wanted to do. And now I won't go into Airtable formulas. These are similar to Excel formulas. And for example, here I want name equals homeowner name. Now, homeowner name isn't an actual variable. I have to define this. So this will be something like equals Robert Hangul, for example. Okay, so then it will only get the people with the name Robert Hangul. Okay, now how do I get this name? Well, I have to define a variable first, and I do this over here. This is what the input variables part is for, and I click and I call this name, and the description is the homeowner's name. Full name to be precise. And now I can specify this within curly braces. And we can see that a list appears where I can select the variables. So it's already pre-filled. So this is how it looks like, okay? And this variable will be filled in by the LLM. Now there's one more thing that we need to do. We cannot just write equals over here because it doesn't know if this equals is an equals as in from the query string or if it's part of the string itself. So it doesn't know if how to keep these two apart. So this is why we need a special encoding, and it's also specified here in the Airtable documentation. It says that you need to be encoding this first, and it will give you this very, very cryptic sign. So you can use this tool over here to use it and to encode it. So you can very easily say, okay, filter by formula, and now here I write name equals, let's say, my name. And here at the bottom, I can see the actual formula. So we see that it replaced the equal sign with %3D. Now, I won't go into this encoding again, but this is basically the hex code. So base 16 encoding of the equal sign. So don't worry about this. Anytime you need to encode something in the query for Airtable, you come here and you do this. So I will just copy this over here now. I will go back into the query string, paste this, and then replace basically my name with that variable name. And now we can test this again. And now if I click run, it asks me to specify a variable. Now this variable will be filled in when we are in the conversation with the AI agent. But now, because we are not in the conversation now, we are actually building this, we have to specify a name. So here I will go to the homeowners table and just have a look at somebody who's in here. So let's just take John Anderson. All right, John Anderson. I will click on run. And we can see that it got just one record, John Anderson's record, okay? So now it is impossible to hack this system. I can only get data from it if I know somebody who's inside the homeowner association and their address, but I could do this with a human agent as well. So it's not 100% fail-proof, but at least I don't get the whole list of people. For example, now if I specify another variable, let's say I specify John Smith, we'll see that it won't return anybody because there isn't anybody named John Smith in the database. Okay, looking good. Then we also want to verify if this person is part of the community they claim to be. So we add a new API call that we will call get community by name, gets the community by name. And we will do the same thing. We will go to the Airtable API. We will go to communities. We will go to list records. And again, here we will copy this connection string. We will paste it in here. And the trick here that we will do now is we need something a bit more flexible, okay? Because maybe people will refer to their communities not by exact name. Maybe they won't say, hey, I'm in Sunnybrook Meadows. They will maybe just say, hey, I'm in Sunnybrook. Or maybe if the community has a longer name, like let's say Maple Ridge, let's just call this for the sake of the example, Maple Ridge Homeowner Association, okay? And they will just say, hey, I'm in Maple Ridge. If we search by exact equals something, so let's say here I would say something like filter by formula, and I would say here community equals something, it will never find it. So we want a way to say, okay, if they say, let's say just Maple Ridge, that it still finds this record. So we want the thing they say to be a part of this name, okay, so that it's contained in the name. Now, again, this is a bit technical, but it's super easy if you get the grasp of it. Let's quickly go to the formula builder. We need a formula that is called search. So search is a function, and search searches for the name that I give here. So for example, Maple Ridge inside the name of the header. and it will return the position where it was found. So let's say it wasn't found, it will return 0. And if it was found, it will return the position. So in this case, it starts with 1. So if it finds Maple Ridge, it will return the number 1 because it was found at position 1. This is how you have to think about it. Now I can copy this thing over. So I've already prepared the string here. This is how it looks like. And again, I have to replace Maple Ridge by the actual name. So again, same thing, create a variable, name the variable community given name. The community given name. So for example, Hillside Community Association, the given name is Hillside. So I instruct the LLM to just use, let's say, the smallest common denominator in case they say instead of Maple Ridge Homeowner Associations, they say, I live in Maple Ridge Community, okay? There is no community in this name. So this is why it has to just extract Maple Ridge. And I will insert this variable over here, community given name. And now I can test this. Again, I click run, and then I will test this with Maple Ridge. I click run. Okay, authentication required. You see, I forgot to add the authentication. So quickly go to the headers, do this, run again. And here we go. So it found only this community, Maple Ridge Homeowner Association. Okay, very good. The same thing as we did with the homeowners. And we also want to have a fallback for the homeowner identification. Let's say they spell their name wrong, they pronounce it wrong, or I don't know what else. We want one more API authentication method. We call it get homeowner by email. So the same thing gets the homeowner by their email address. The same thing, we'll use the same connection string for the homeowners table, list records, and we will filter for the email address instead of the name. So I will say filter by formula. I have something like this, again with the same %3D. I will add a new variable and I say email, the homeowner's email, and I replace it over here. And I've also instructed the LLM to do so, and you can see it over here. I instructed it to do the authentication the following way. Check the homeowner's identity. First, to try to find them by their name, and if unsuccessful, find them by their email address. So it will reiterate here if it's not possible to find them directly. Very well, now here it is, our authentication step with 3 connections. Quickly going back to Miro, we can see that this is what we built now. So this step over here where we get data from Airtable into the homeowner authentication step. Now what we'll do next is we will configure the knowledge base, and then we will come back and configure the code step where we check if they're part of a special association. Now, how do we configure the knowledge base? There is an extra step over here inside of the dev category called KB search. Okay, I will pull this down here. Again, you see that it's an extra block. I will call it search KB. KB stands for knowledge base. And here, if I click this over here on the right, I can see the parts that I can configure. And here I come back to the 2 variables that I declared early. So I had a variable called knowledge base query. When we go back here to the agent, we have this exit condition here. Okay, so remember I had this variable that I declared here, which we'll get to in a second, but what we need now is this one. So when I have the exit condition KB knowledge query, I can define a required variable. Okay, so then here I create a new variable and I define this variable as its name will be knowledge base query. And its description, which is important for the LLM, is a compact question based on the last homeowner query and the conversation so far. Okay, create variable. So now what does this mean? Conceptually, you have to think about this. When the LLM takes the transition from this block over here to the search query, so I will connect this over here. When it takes this exit condition, it sets this variable over here. Okay, so here I can define any variable I want, but the LLM will fill in this variable. So let's say the homeowner asks about how can I get my resale documents. The LLM will create something like how to get resale documents. Or if I have problems with the trash, it will create something like what to do if trash is overflown or whatever. Okay, so this is the knowledge base query. Now we need this in this step here. So the question here will be, again, I open up an accolade and I use knowledge base query. Okay. Now, this is not everything because maybe the homeowner is part of a special community. So I want to include this here as well. And how do I do this? Maybe you remember we defined this output variable over here in the code step. So I'll quickly go back there and you can see this over here. I quickly click on this variable here. And this was the variable community name query. You can see it over here. So this is basically the name of the community that will be used. So here I say for. So basically this for is like a proper text. and then the variable community name query. Okay, this looks very complicated, but it's actually very easy. I have access to all of these variables everywhere in my entire flow. Okay, so if I wanted, I could create, let's say, another step over here, another knowledge base query step, and have access to these variables everywhere. So conceptually, you have to split variable creation from variable reading. Okay, so I can create these variables everywhere as long as they are before where I read them. Okay, so for example, if I use a variable in this step, they have to be created before this step gets triggered, so either here or here. Or if I use a variable over here, they have to be created anywhere before this step. Super easy. And now, once the knowledge base finishes, it will save these chunks. So the chunks are basically parts of documents that match this query to a variable. And I can define the variable over here. So I will say create a new variable, and I will call it KB retrieved content. And I will say the content from the knowledge base. I will select it from the variable that I've already created, if you remember. So KB retrieved content. It's the variable that I used over here, KB retrieved content, all right? So it's the same variable. Now you might ask yourself, why do I define the variable before I actually use it or it gets initialized? Well, it's very simple. If the variable hasn't been initialized or filled with anything beforehand, it won't show anything. So when it gets into this prompt the first time over here, from this step into this step, this variable will be empty. So the LLM sees this prompt and it sees, okay, there's nothing in here. So it's important to know that the prompt is generated on every step. So every time I go into this step, Voiceflow will look at all this prompt and it will replace the content of these variables with whatever is in there at the same time, at that time. So it's dynamic. Okay. So then it will see, okay, this thing is empty. So it means, okay, I need this information. So I need to call this exit condition, KB knowledge query. So then it will go into this block here. It will run whatever happens there, and this chunks will be saved to this part here. And now I will have to go back here into the initial prompt that I had. And now Voiceflow will recompute this prompt again. But this time the KB retrieved content will have content from the knowledge base. So then the LLM will know, okay, now I have some information here. And then it will follow the prompt and it will see, okay, it will follow whatever is in the discover and resolution sections of the document that I still have to upload. Okay. There's one more thing we need to do. So there's this condition here called not found path. This happens if the information wasn't found in the knowledge base. Now we will do this. And here I can specify the minimum chunk score. That means how similar is the chunk, so the part of the document, to my query. Now 80 is very high. Let's set it to 40. 40 is a good value, but it depends on your knowledge base. It depends on many things. So I set this like this. And what happens is whenever a document chunk, so a part, is lower than 40% similar to the query, it won't be included. And if there is no document, so it will look at 3 chunks in total. We can see it here in the chunks limit, okay? So if no chunk is above 40%, so that means the likelihood that the answer of the question is inside of the documents is very low, it will trigger this path. And we can see that we have a new path here, not found. Now, what happens here now is I have to set the knowledge base retrieved content to something to specify that it wasn't possible to find the information. So there is this step here, logic set, where all this does is it sets variables, okay? And I will call this set not found variable. So set variable, and I click variables to set value or expression. We use this. Enter the variable KB retrieved content. We choose it from here. KB retrieved content will be set to a value. And I will say this value is no relevant answer for the question found in the knowledge base. Okay. So when it returns from this path, so I will connect this to here and then this back to the main prompt over here. All right. Very easy. So basically what happens here is if it regenerates this prompt, once it comes back from the not found path, this variable over here, KB retrieved content, okay, will be set to there was no content found. Basically what I said over here, no retrieved answer for the question found in the knowledge base. And then the LLM knows, okay, if it executes this prompt and sees, okay, no knowledge was found, it will tell the homeowner, hey, I couldn't find an answer to this, and so on and so forth. Maybe, transfer to a human or call us again, or I will help you with something else. in a different way, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is basically the flow. This is the flow. It's super easy, okay, conceptually. There's two cases. One case, something was found, then it will write the data into the KB retrieved content. In both cases, I write data to KB retrieved content, or I write something, okay? In the first case where something was found, this data, these documents will be written. If nothing was found, this exact step, this string will be written. No relevant answer was found. So in both cases, when we go down this route, in any case, we will write something, okay? In both cases, we return to the main step. And then the main step will execute again. If it will find that it hasn't got the information, again, it will go the path of the knowledge base query, okay? We can see it over here. Now, I know you're super curious to see how the knowledge base really works now, so let's go and create it. I click here on knowledge base and we see that it's empty. So I create add data source and I will click upload file. And now I will add the documents that I have that I showed you in the beginning. There are different options I can use here, LLM chunking strategy, like for example, smart chunking, FAQ optimization, and so on and so forth, which means it will add some extra data. For example, if I want FAQ optimization, for each chunk, it will create a question, so it will generate, okay? Now, we won't touch any of this now because the documents are already set up pretty good, but this is used, for example, when I have lots of documents, long documents, we can summarize them. Also, when I add HTML sites directly from my website, it will remove the tags and so on. Okay, we don't look at this right now. We just import them and we can see all of the documents over here. Okay, so I will quickly show you these documents again just to remind yourself. So for example, let's say I have a look at Greenwood Estates document requests. So this is how it will look like. So it will know, okay, resale document for Greenwood Estates. So this will have a higher probability than, for example, Riverbend Court document requests, or for example, other communities document requests, right? Because if we look at these documents, we can also click them and they will appear here on the right. So we can see the chunks that have been created, and also Voiceflow shows us their chunk ID, but okay, this is relevant only if you use their Voiceflow API. We won't go into this right now. So we can basically see that it has the resale document for all other communities and so on and so forth. So now if, for example, I have a look at the Maple Ridge document requests, we can see that it is pertaining only to Maple Ridge. Okay, so now let's try a sample query so that you can see what I mean. I can click here on preview at the top. So here I can play around with it. For example, I can ask the question, how do I request resale documents for Maple Ridge? And now I click send, and here it will show me all the documents that match this. So it will show me first a response. Okay, so this is the response that the LLM generates once it gets the documents, okay? But we want to see the sources. So we click on sources. I can see for each document which chunks were extracted and what the score was. So how high is the probability that this chunk answers the question, right? So because I asked about resale documents for Maple Ridge, these two have a very high, let's say, they're very salient. So that means they influence a lot the documents that get pulled out, and the documents that contain these two terms have very high scores. So it looks at the title, Maple Ridge document requests, and then it looks at the content and it sees resale document Maple Ridge. So then it pulls out this document first. Then it pulls out the second one that has Sunnybrook Meadows Rest, also document request. This has a lower probability, only 66.12%, which is a big difference, right? Thinking about that these scores can be very close together. And then the third one is Oakwood Park. So it would pull up these three documents. And because the LLM is smart and knows that these two are not so relevant, so this happens in a, let's say, in an AI agent step. So there is also like an AI agent step inside the RAG tool, but only for the preview, okay? We will see in a second, the data that gets pulled into our AI agent is only these documents. It's not the response. And we can see a response is you can order resale documents online at here, log in or create an account, search for your community and place an order. Standard processing time is 20 business days. And we can see that this is what's in here, okay? It says, okay, log into this website, place your documents, your order, 20 business days, okay? It is very, very accurate. And this only works because it's in combination of retrieving the documents and then asking the LLM. Okay, and then let's say I do something else. I want to ask about this for a community that is not a special community. So I will quickly have a look at our database. And let's say I'm in a Cedar Grove. So I will say for Cedar Grove, But the point here is that SetaGrove won't appear inside the query because remember we have this little JavaScript function that I showed you earlier, and basically it won't say SetaGrove, it will say for all other communities. So this is why we need this function, because it has to toggle between the special community name or the all other communities. So now I click send. And we can see that the first query is other communities document request with a score of 68.08%. So this is the first document because it saw the keyword for all other communities that was the same that I had here in the query in the first place. Okay. And then if we scroll down, we can see that the other documents that get pulled are Riverbend Court and Oakwood Park, which actually aren't so relevant. So we see that the knowledge base works well. And then here I can set the settings. So let's pick again the GPT-4.1 mini with this, and then I can set a system prompt, which is all pretty good. I don't need to change this. Okay, once that's done and I set some parameters that work in the preview, I can also set these parameters in the overall configuration. So I'll quickly pick this AI agent over here. Temperature looks good. Here I can set how many chunks I want. 3 is okay. You can go with the defaults unless you have some special cases. Again, these are the parameters that you have to tune for the knowledge base. Once they are set, you're good to go. All right, now everything's configured. We go back to our AI agent. And of course, we can also test this here. As you can see, there is this button down here called run. It's similar to the function call. I click here. I can say, okay, this is a knowledge-based query. So it will be, how can I request my resale documents? And the community name query will be Maple Ridge. And you remember here, I basically composed this question out of these components. So this is basically what I specify over here, both components, and I click preview. Now it composes it and we can see the same thing that we saw earlier, 74.21%. It's basically the same thing we had when we tested the knowledge base separately. But again, here I can compose any string, okay? So just remember the knowledge base where I configure it is a separate part than the part where I access it, which is over here. All right, looking good. Now quickly going back to Miro, we configured this step, which was the most difficult step, and it's very good that it's done now. Now we just have to create the ticket and then we are done. Then we can basically by the phone number push this into production and roll with it. So we quickly look at the outline. We did the Airtable database connection, which is good, and the document preparation for the knowledge base, which were the documents that we uploaded, which is fine. And then the knowledge base configuration in Voiceflow, which was the part where we configured the chunking strategy, like how many chunks, the percentages, the output variable, and the no path situation, meaning when there's no result, what should happen. Now, we just have to do one more thing. We have to connect the Airtable table call logs over here. So we quickly delete this entry that we had earlier, we made manually. We go to Voiceflow, and this is the part that we need, the create ticket agent, okay, edit agent. So this is the part over here where we need an API call, create API tool, and we will call this create ticket. Creates a ticket in the database containing the call summary about the homeowner's issue. So this is what it will do. We'll go to the Airtable API and we will go to the call logs table, and here we will choose the create records API functionality. So what happens here is basically when I post something, I have to specify what data I post. Okay, so it's different from when we pulled the data in the GET request. Okay, because here it usually contains more data. So it's designed in such a way that the post requests usually take a JSON input and the GET requests usually get shorter inputs. Okay, so like a filter by formula or something. So I will copy here this API connection string. I will come back, I will input it here, and then I will select the method post. Okay, this means I will post to this endpoint. And here, this part is important. The body should be raw data, so JSON. So here I can write whatever. I forgot to set the headers, so just setting them here right now. And now we will use this sample string here in the documentation as a starting point. Okay, so I'll just copy paste this here as a starting point. Here there's 2 records, but I need just 1 record. And I can see what fields I need. So I need the name, which is the ID of the homeowner, because it's a link inside Airtable, the concern, and the actions. Okay, so for all 3 of them, we will have variables. So I will go with the first variable and I I'll call it homeowner ID. Now you might remember that we already have saved this in the beginning, in the first step where we created those variables. We will just map to this variable in a second when we are outside of this API configuration window. I will show you this in a second. Then we will have the concerns and the actions taken. So I'll just call this homeowner concern. I'll say the concern the homeowner has called you about, and then the suggested actions, the actions that you recommended the homeowner to take. Now here again, I will choose the variable homeowner ID, all as we did in just previously, filling just in homeowner concern and then the actions, all very easy. All right, now it's done. All of these steps are done. Now I will close this, and here I can see how these variables are being populated, okay? So if I say, okay, agent collect, it means that the AI agent will fill in this information. Now, if I don't want this, and if I already have a variable that I, in this case, have, I will click this, and I will say default value. So here I can enter again a variable. So the default value is the homeowner database ID. So I just click this. LLM description is okay. Save to variable, I don't need this. What is save to variable? It means once this variable was determined, in case, let's say here, for example, homeowner concern. So in case this was determined by the AI, like agent collect, that value will be stored to a certain variable. So you can see that we have access to variables reading and writing at every step, which makes this very flexible, and which is what makes Voiceflow so flexible, because I can always have access to the variables and every step can be saved to a variable as well. But here we won't touch this because we don't need this. The only change we had to make here is to choose the homeowner ID in the database and save it to the homeowner ID in the API call. Now, the last thing that we have to do is we have to finalize this code over here. That basically will tell us, based on the community, if it's special or not. It will write this community name query as for community name, like for example, for Maple Ridge, or for all other communities if it's not a special community. So I've already prepared this, and what does it do basically? So in very simple terms, I will quickly explain this function, won't go into the details. These are the special communities that I got from here basically. So these are all the communities that are special and that also have matching documents that have a different specification and SOP, so a different procedure. And then I would just want to see if the community that I say I'm from contains one of these names. This is all it does. So for example, let's say I'm from Maple Ridge Homeowner Association. It will look if Maple Ridge Homeowner Association has any of these words inside, and it does because it's Maple Ridge. And then if yes, if it does, it will keep the community name, otherwise it will say all other communities. And we can see this by running the test. I will click run and I will specify the homeowner community. So I will quickly copy this from over here so that I don't make any mistakes. And then I click run. And in this case, it contains this name, Maple Ridge. So the community name query will be Maple Ridge Homeowner Association. And if we then quickly jump out into the knowledge base, what happens here is knowledge base query for community name query, which is Maple Ridge, okay? If we run this function again with another community, for example, let's say I'm with not a special community, Cedar Grove. So I say Cedar Grove, run. We can see that community name query will be all other communities. So when we quickly go back again to the knowledge base query, over here we'll have whatever question for all other communities. Okay, so this is why we needed this function. This is why we needed this thingy here to make sure that we create the correct query. All right, now we are ready to test this. I know that you're just excited as I am because this is where it will probably break. Let's cross fingers it won't. We will just click the run button here. We can also click the start button here. It's the same thing. We can see that the interface changed, and now let's chat with this agent and see what it does. And by the way, when I chat with it, I access the exact same functionality as if I talked to it via the phone, but this is more practical because I can see all the steps it goes through. It is slower and it's basically easier to find the errors. So we can see here all the steps it goes through. So now let's just say I am from a special community. Let's quickly see. Let's say we are from Maple Ridge Homeowner Association. And this is basically the protocol for the balance and statement query. So if the caller says, okay, what's my balance statement? The AI agent will have to say that it cannot answer it and that it should contact the on-site office. Okay, so somebody from Maple Ridge is Brian Gray. So let's say I'm Brian Gray and I ask the query, I'd like to inquire about my balance, please. Now it asks me about my details to authenticate me. What's your full name? Okay, I'm saying I'm Brian Gray. Now it will ask me, what is the homeowner association you're part of? I say I'm from the Maple Ridge Association. And what's the full address? I will quickly copy it from here such that I don't mess it up. So I will click on the contact, quickly copy these details over here to get it running to the next step. So now it will go to the next step. It will quickly do this query and then instantly go over here. Now let's pause here for a second, see what happened. And the best way to do this is to have a look at these logs. So these are all the steps, okay? And here I can see if it is correct. So we have the input I just stated, then it goes to calling get homeowner by name, get community by name tools, which is correct, succeeded. Then it says, okay, it managed to authenticate me, calling data successfully gathered tools. So what is this? So every transition that happens over here, like here we had the get data successfully gathered, Voiceflow creates a tool for that. So even the transitions are tools, everything is tools here, okay? So it means the transition was taken successfully. Now, if we continue here, what else has it done? It basically doesn't show the JavaScript function that it executed, but there is another tab here I can inspect. I can inspect all the variables. So this looks very technical. Don't be afraid of this. Don't get scared. It's super easy. It's a very big JSON file that contains all of the variables. And if I scroll down a little bit, I can see all the variables that have been set here. Okay. And this is very practical. I can also search for them. So for example, if I want to know what the community name query is, I just write community and I can see everything that contains this name community. And I can see that the community name query was set to Maple Ridge Homeowner Association, which is exactly what I said. And because it includes the name Maple Ridge, the function lets it keep this association and doesn't replace it with all other associations. And also these other variables. So for example, if I say homeowner, so here you can see that it makes sense to name the variables that handle similar things in a similar way. We can see homeowner full name was saved, the full database ID, this will be used later on, the community ID, and so on. So we are all good. Now let's continue with the chat and let's see what happened. So we also wanted to inspect what happened with the knowledge base search. So we can see, okay, calling knowledge base query tools, okay, which was fine. So let's quickly click on it and see what query it used, okay? So we can see this over here, not in this one, but in the next one, navigating to this. Here we have it in the next thing where we have the exit condition. And this is what we needed. This is the knowledge base query variable. How can a homeowner check their account balance? Okay, this is the query that was generated by the LLM. But because we have set also this other variable, we know, so basically this variable over here, Maple Ridge Homeowner Association, basically the actual query that was sent was a combination of the two. So it was the question plus, so how can a homeowner get their account balance plus Maple Ridge Association? And we can see this here. So the search query actually was, how can a homeowner get this for Maple Ridge Homeowner Association? And this is where the magic happens. This is where this prompt gets composed by these two components. And this is where I basically triage and I can split between the different communities that I serve. And we can see now that the data that was retrieved, we can see it here. It retrieved 3 items and the items it retrieved are exactly spot on. It's account billing and web concerns for Maple Ridge. Okay. And this was the first chunk with a 64% probability, which is pretty high. And then the next chunk that was received was 55%, which is a lower one and is something not related. It's still billing and web concerns, but it's for lakeside villas. It's not of interest here. And then the third one was billing and web concerns for all other communities. These are the 3 chunks that were retrieved in this step. Okay. So this information now gets back to the prompt. And now this is the answer that it gave me. And it says, thanks for your patience. For Maple Ridge, I can't provide account details directly. All account-related matters are handled by the on-site office. They'll be able to help. Okay. And now if I have a look at the retrieved documents, this is exactly what the document states. It says, okay, it cannot give me any information for Maple Ridge. All balance statements and so forth are handled by the on-site office. This is exactly the document that I uploaded here. Okay. So the whole art of this is getting the right document for the right query. And this is what we managed to do here. So now I can just continue the chat here. Okay. And for just brevity reasons, I will say, okay, if you need to contact them, just let me know. I can say, okay, thanks. I'll reach out to them. Okay, and now it says, please hold on for a second while the ticket is being created. Thank you for reaching out to Next Association. Have a wonderful day and don't hesitate to contact us again. Goodbye. Very nice. And now let's see what ticket has been created. We go back to Airtable here, the call logs. The call log hasn't been created because it jumped over this step. So basically there's a little problem that we have here. So it basically just jumped, and this is something that we can fix quickly. We select the GPT-4.1 model, so not the mini one, the proper one. And we can quickly prompt this and say, your goal, you'll create a ticket which acts as a summary. And then we can quickly say steps, create the ticket as instructed. And then we can say on successful ticket creation, call the end call tool. Okay, so this is basically how we can solve this because it hasn't triggered this API call. So this is the thing, and also maybe it hallucinated. This is why we selected the more powerful GPT-4.1 model. So I will quickly test this again and jump to the end quickly. So it's basically you just see the end result that it works. So I quickly fast forwarded now to the step where it's about to write the call log inside of the database, and it's asking me, is there anything else I can help you with today? I say, no, thanks, that's it. And now it transitions to the create ticket step. We can also see this over here. Please hold on while the ticket is being created. All right, very nice. Then it transitions to end call. It ends the call. And if I quickly have a look over here into the call log, I can see that the tool create ticket succeeded. Now the thing is here that I cannot see the variables it used in the tool, but for this I can go to the variables section. All right, and basically there is this one variable that is called underscore memory underscore. So I will search for it here like this. So this variable contains everything that has happened, all the conversation steps, everything one by one. And you can see it. It starts with the first inquiry, then the answer of the assistant and so on. So I will scroll down to see what this function result was. So it's towards the end. And here I can basically check what happens. Okay. So here we can also see the knowledge-based query. We can also see the results. We can see everything. And here we can basically see the call for the create ticket function. This is exactly what we had. And the homeowner concern, basically a summary, homeowner Brian Gray called for this and that. And then also the function result, which was successful. So this is basically what we have to look out for if we want to create a successful record, is that the Airtable API will return the record that was created. So it looks good. And now if we have a look into the database, we can see that there is actually a log created. So let's expand this and we can see the homeowner email, link to their name, everything, and also the concern. The homeowner called the inquiry about this for where he lives, and we inform the homeowner that the mallet statements are handled directly by the on-site office, advise him to come to the site, and so on. So it is complete. Now your team can come to this database, have a look at all the call logs, and in case there is any action they need to do, they can do it right away and they can take it from there. So the whole flow is complete now. Now, basically, the next thing we have to do now is how do we get this live or into production? So this is done here in the interfaces tab. And I can either embed this on my website or I can connect a phone number to it, okay? But first, how can we test this before we use the phone number? Well, we go to modality and interface, and here we go to voice, and here we know that now it is a voice widget, and it has also changed here. If we have a look at it, we can see that from chat, so it's either a chat or it's either a voice widget, and now I can call it and see what happens.
Hello, you've reached Emily, the new AI agent at Next Associations Management. I'm still on probation, so I promise to be on my best behavior. Think of me as the friendly rookie here to help you out. If at any point you want to chat with a human instead, just say the word. But hey, give me a chance to learn the ropes, and I'll do my best to make your day easier. What can I help you with today?
Yeah, hi, I'd like to inquire about my balance, please.
Got it. You're calling to inquire about your balance. Thanks for reaching out to Next Associations Management. I'll help you with that. To get started, may I please have your full name?
All right, now I stopped it. So it's the same flow that you saw earlier. And we can now test it via voice again before we connect it, okay? So now first, before we do anything, let's first publish this. So we go to publish, and here we can just click publish, and we go from development into production. Now it builds the whole thing, and once it's online, it's both usable via the web widget and the phone number. Now let's see where we are at now. So we have just tested the AI agent, and now we have to buy and connect a phone number in Twilio. So this was successfully deployed now, and now what we need to do is we will have to change the interface to telephony, and basically we will have to import a number. So we will first have to go to Twilio and buy a number. This is what we're going to do next. We will go to the Twilio dashboard, to twilio.com. This is how the homepage look like, and you click on login. If you haven't got an account yet, you will create one. Now here I will have to authenticate. Now this is how the dashboard looks like. So most of the action happens here in the sidebar on the left. We will go to phone numbers, manage, buy a number. And here is fairly easy to use. You can choose the country where you want to buy it from. So we will just stick with the standard here. All of them cost $1.15 per month. You will click buy, and then you will click buy again. So I already have a number for this. So I will show you how the dashboard of that number looks like after you've bought it. You'll find it under active numbers. You'll click on that number. And basically there's nothing else you need to do here inside of Twilio. Just remember the number, copy it, and the rest will happen here inside of Voiceflow, where you will paste this number. So you will just copy it, copy the number, paste it in here, and then you need the Twilio account SID and auth token. So you can think of them a bit as like API keys. You find this on your Twilio dashboard. So you click on account dashboard and you find them right here in this one, account info. So you copy this, paste it in here, and then you will copy this other thing, and then you will paste it inside here, and then you will give it a name. So you can say Twilio number, and you click import. So I've already imported this number, so it's already displaying inside of my Voiceflow number. So I just click assign existing number, and this is the number that I will use, and the environment will be production. So that means that everything that comes into this number, all the calls that come here, will be redirected to the production environment. So there are two environments, development and production. So this means that as long as I work in the development environment, the production won't be touched. So basically clients will still be able to call me via that number. Okay, then I click assign number. It says, okay, it's already assigned. Okay, please confirm. Yes, because I used it for a different demo. Now the number has been assigned, and I have to do one more thing inside of Twilio. I have to go to the number and make sure that the webhook is activated. So there are different ways that Twilio allows you to configure these numbers. It's either via webhook, so you can see it here, configure with, you have webhook, TweML app, or zip trunk, okay? So these are different configuration scenarios. The most common one is the zip trunk, which is a bit more complicated to set up. Like for example, you use this for tools like retail. I have videos about this as well on my channel. You can have a look at them. But for this case, for Voiceflow, the webhook connection is what's required. And basically, when Voiceflow gets your authentication details that we input earlier, what it does is it basically configures this for you inside of Twilio. Okay, all done. So now we can give it a try. I will take my phone and call this number. And what we will expect is the same AI voice agent that has responded to me earlier to respond now.
You've reached Emily, the new AI agent at Next Association Management. I'm still on probation, so I'm trying to be extra helpful and maybe even a little charming.
I just muted her, so you see that this is the same agent from earlier.
Right? If you ever want to chat with a human instead, just say the word. But I'd love for you to give me a chance to learn and assist Tuesday. What can I help you with?
Hey Emily, I'd like to inquire my balance. Is it possible?
I understand you're calling to inquire about your balance. Thank you for reaching out to Next Associations Management.
All right, I just hung up because you saw the demo earlier as well. So this is how you connect them. So we also figured this out. So let's mark this as done in the list. So basically this is all that we have done today. Now you have a complete AI agent that is capable of querying a complex knowledge base with different homeowners associations, where all of them have different rules and operational playbooks they have to adhere when homeowners call. So let's quickly recap what we've done so far. So we started with a demo, and then we started with the conversational flow design in Miro, where we designed the high-level flow of what will happen. We saw that we have 5 big steps. We have the greeting, then we have the extraction of what homeowner association they call us from. Then we have the issue triaging, which is the main point here, which I marked with the yellow background. Then it will create a ticket once everything is done for our further inspection, and then finally it will end the call. Everything is based on an Airtable database that you can see here. We have 3 tables. We have the community list, we have the homeowners, and we have the call logs where everything will be written down. And this was created with Voiceflow, which is a tool that allows you to configure conversational flows. So the exact same flow that we had here in Miro, we built here inside of Voiceflow. And we also connected all of these steps to proper API endpoints that we got from Airtable. As you can see here, getting the homeowner, getting the community, and so on. We configured the transitions between these stages. We also had a separate code that actually what it does, it checks if the homeowner is from one of these special communities that require separate treatment. And once that's done, we have the main part here, the issue triaging and troubleshooting that works with a knowledge base that we also configured. We've uploaded all the documents here, and basically each document has the proper steps that need to be taken for each of these communities. Once that was done, a ticket was created and then the call was ended. And then finally, we bought this phone number here via Twilio. Once we bought it, we added it here inside of Voiceflow, we configured it, and then we saw that it is possible to call this AI agent via the phone. Now, if you like this video, feel free to subscribe because I'm doing a 30 AI agents in 30 days challenge. Make sure you don't miss out on any new agent. I'm getting out one new AI agent every day for 30 days. I started out every day consecutively, but since these videos got longer and you requested more details, they will be put out once or twice a week. But the challenge is still ongoing. This is agent number 19. Now, if you or somebody you know wants to build one of these agents inside their own company, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm happy to hear about your use case. And until the next one, cheers, bye. Oh, and one more thing, don't forget to download the AI agent in the description below, where you have access to this whole conversation flow that also includes all the code snippets that we have, all the transitions, all the variables, the knowledge base configuration. So everything you have to do is just upload your own documents, change the API endpoints to your own Airtable configuration, and you are ready to go and hit the ground running. So until the next one, cheers.